Thank you, Madam. I rise to ask question 194/2015 under my name. The question is directed to Attorney General, Minister for Finance, Public Enterprise, Public Service and Communication. Can the Minister inform the House on the banning of 4 products from entering New Zealand and what measures have been put in place to improve operational measures that has caused the suspension? Thank you.
Thank you. I give the floor to the Honourable Attorney General and Minister for Finance, Public Enterprises, Public Service and Communications.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Thank the Honourable Member for this question. As you know, Madam Speaker, this matter was very much in the public space for a few days. Madam Speaker, the suspension actually took place by the New Zealand authorities. And as you may also know, Madam Speaker, from the media reports that immediately upon this suspension, Fiji protested as to the suspension. And we wrote immediately to the New Zealand MPI, Minister of Primary Industries, and then within a day they were here. And we had the meeting with a New Zealand MPI, with the Honourable Minister of Agriculture was present, the Honourable Minister for Industry and Trade, and we had discussions with them. They had their Chief Technical Officer from New Zealand, Dr. Stephen Butcher, who came along, and they actually admitted that the suspension was the wrong step that was taken by New Zealand. Madam Speaker, I think in order to highlight and probably educate some people in this House, there are, Madam Speaker, 4 types of products: eggplants, breadfruit, papaya, and mangoes that goes to New Zealand that needs a high, what you call high HTFA. In other words, high temperature forced air treatment. And that facility, Madam Speaker, is only run by one particular entity in Fiji, which is not biosecurity, but Nature's Way, which is a cooperative that provides this particular service, where these products are put in and the high temperature forced air is put in, supposedly, Madam Speaker, to kill any fruit flies. These 4 products have been identified as possibly having fruit flies. So there was one particular consignment that had gone off, which according to the New Zealand personnel down there may not have necessarily achieved that level of temperature that it should have been treated at. Now, what happened, Madam Speaker, was normally under the standard operating procedures, what we call the bilateral quarantine agreement, or BQA, when that happens, immediately the quarantine authority, in this case Biosecurity Fiji, or in New Zealand's case MPI, would be notified and say, hey, something's wrong with this consignment. They either then resend it, send it back to Fiji, for it to be treated again and be sent back again, or they can destroy it. We must also remember, Madam Speaker, that New Zealand also exports a lot of agricultural products to Fiji. Onions, potatoes, garlic sometimes, and other fruits, apples, oranges, what have you. They also have to meet certain protocols according to the Fijian standards. Biosecurity of Fiji, like New Zealand, they have what you call a percentage of risk that they do allow. In some instances, the standard is about 5%. If the risk is less than 5%, they'll allow it, and it's a measured undertaking that they do take. So in this particular instance, Madam Speaker, the suspension that took place was completely unwarranted, as the New Zealand authorities admitted. And immediately after the meeting that was held, a day after the meeting, Madam Speaker, the suspension was lifted. What also transpired, Madam Speaker, was the proper lines of communication was not being followed. One in particular gentleman from the New Zealand MPI side was in fact not following the proper protocol and was not getting in touch with biosecurity, but going directly to farmers, going directly to Nature's Way, going directly to SPC, which obfuscated the whole lines of communication. So all of that is in place now. There's much better lines of communication. Nature's Way has also was called in to ensure that they are actually adhering to the various standards. Sometimes farmers, because they're in a hurry to get their consignment in, they don't want to wait the 15 or 20 minutes and put pressure on Nature's Way to say, we'll take it out of the furnace quickly so we can put it on the plane. So all of these sorts of things have been addressed. In fact, since then also, BAF has undertaken the training of farmers, exporters and quality controllers on the export requirements to ensure that the entire chain value is addressed and everybody understands the need to follow the proper procedures and protocols. And I can say, Madam Speaker, that the relationship now between MPI and biosecurity has now been put on the right track, and the notification of the fact that some of the personnel weren't following the right procedures has now been addressed, and everything has been going well since then. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. Supplementary question.
As the government considered the option of having more of such facilities as opposed to the only service provider NHOA operating now? Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. Honorable Attorney General.
Speaker, I'd like to thank the honourable member for the question. It's actually a very important question. At the moment, Madam Speaker, there is no competition. There is no competition in respect of providing that particular service. The HFTA service is only provided by Nature's Way. There is obviously merits in having another service provider, because that they actually also charge farmers a particular levy for the processing of the HFTA facilities. So we in fact encourage more participants in that area providing service. They can have a bit of competition and better services to the farmers. It is very critical. It's very interesting, Madam Speaker, with the facilities of the HFTA that is there was, and we've tried to actually track back as to how it went to Nature's Way. In fact, it used to be run by the Ministry of Agriculture Quarantine Department back in the 90s. And in the 90s, at some stage, it was transferred to Nature's Way. It is a cooperative. And in fact, we've looked at the cooperative articles of association. It's very much outdated. We've had a discussion with the chairman. They've also said that they want to make a submission regarding the fees that they're charging farmers. They're saying that they want a higher levy to be levied so they can actually carry out many capital upgrades. So we've said to give in the submissions, which we can look at for budgetary considerations. But the Honourable Nambulivo, who is also a farmer, does know this, that at the moment we are beholden only to Nature's Way. It would be good to have some other providers of this facility so we can get a lot more, not just competition for the sake of it, but better service delivery to the farmers, Madam Speaker. And we're looking at that, and in fact even biosecurity might even think of getting into that area themselves. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. Supplementary question. Honorable Nawaka.
Okay. Madam Speaker, thank the Minister for that clarification of those issues. I mean, as you know, Madam Speaker, those products came from Singatogo Valley, where I come from. Is there, are these facilities, these biochemistry, these bio facilities, are they localized, Madam Speaker, in the area where they operate? Because we're also looking at setting up in the Navosa Highlands for the Nandronga-Navosa province, a collection point. Can we be given an idea of where it is, where it can be located, Madam Speaker?
Thank you. Honorable Attorney General.
Madam Speaker, the Honourable Member is speaking about the HTFA facilities. It's actually around the airport facilities, because normally the idea is that you get the treatment. It's in special trays as specified by the New Zealand MPI. They need to be placed in a particular type of tray. They're put into the facilities, into the furnace, and then they're immediately thereafter shipped. The idea is to have those facilities close by to wherever the point of transportation is for export. So if we, for example, have the facility somewhere that is not close by, there could also then be the risk of infiltration by those very, fruit flies or whatever you may, to avoid that along the way to the airport it could get into. So generally you find these facilities are close by to the site of transportation. So we are thinking, for example, Madam Speaker, with the extension of Nosori Airport, and with there being products from this side of Fiji, on the Central Division side, that a HTF facility would also be good from here, because we can also export from Nosori with the direct flights to Australia and New Zealand. So it'd be good to have one in Suva or Suva-Nosori area, and of course to have another one perhaps in the Western Division. But that's the general idea, that you have it closer to the point of transportation. And we also have, the Minister of Agriculture has also advised, but we have BQA inspectors in the packing facilities also. So at every point of transition, there needs to be these various requirements that needs to be met.
Thank you. The Honourable Anna Revandi.
Madam Speaker, what will be the impact on the farmers if some of those products are returned? Will they be penalized in terms of financial gain or incentivized? Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I do not understand which products the Honourable Member is referring to. Is there a particular consignment he's referring to?
Please clarify.
Returned, the one that has been returned by the New Zealand bottom, the eggplant in first.
Madam Speaker, again, I mean, if he's asking me a general question about there being products being returned by any authority, sometimes, for example, Fiji may return a particular product from Fiji because it has not met the Fijian standards. That's a matter between the exporter and whoever has sent it across to Fiji. In the same way, if there is products returned from New Zealand, it has not met particular requirements of theirs, then obviously those risks need to be identified, and whoever has carried out the breach will obviously need to bear the brunt of that. In this particular case, as we've said, the suspension should not have been there in the first place. And New Zealand has admitted to that. They should not have suspended it. If there was a particular consignment, they thought there were fruit flies in, they should have identified that, sent it back and said, look, it's got fruit flies in it. To date, Madam Speaker, Fiji has an unblemished record. No fruit flies have gone across to New Zealand. No fruit flies. But this HTF facility is there to ensure it does not happen. There could be other reasons. For example, sometimes a consignment may be rejected. If the proper, prior to the HTF facility, some other protocols may not have been followed.
Thank you. I give the floor to the Honourable Michaela Levera. Sorry?
So already been, I was about to ask about the farmers.
Oh, the same question. Okay, thank you.
Question, Madam.
Supplementary question, Honourable Dr. Bridgelaw.
The same products are being exported to Australia. I would like to know whether the Australian market was affected as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Minister.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I thank the Honourable Member for that question. It is also a very important question. Madam Speaker, he's absolutely right, the Honourable Member. The same products are sent to Australia. The Australians actually take their lead from the New Zealanders. As soon as the suspension was put in place, we immediately contacted the Australian authorities at the High Commission here, because we did not want a similar suspension on the exports to Australia. And I've got the information here. In fact, I've got some of the letters that we had written to the various authorities. And the Australians actually were quite good. Following the meeting, the Permanent Secretary had visited the Australian authorities. They reaffirmed that they were confident in the additional measures that we had put in and that no suspension would take place. We also then wrote to the New Zealanders pointing out that the Australians have not suspended what you have. And again, I think that led to the whole precipitation of the fact that they withdrew the suspension very quickly. But it did not affect those same products, which is eggplants, breadfruit, papaya and mangoes, to the Australian market. It did not affect it at all. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.